Hey everyone. So in my last kind of development diary that I put up, I'd been playing with the auto merge CRGT stuff and been working towards a small project that I've been wanting to do with it, and I finally gave it a name and was getting started in the last week or two. So I've resurrected an old project called Aurelian here, which is going to be the core of this GitHub org of this project. But the idea is to build a distributed task to do application. Now it's a very simple, basic idea in terms of like everyone builds to do apps, usually like in the kind of MVC server, web server, JavaScript pattern. But in this case, I wanted to try to do something different, something that I feel actually could be quite useful for my own task tracking. So it is a little CLI tool and kind of synchronization mechanism, which will then have a web interface and a nice terminal UI and all of that kind of thing. But I've been just working on the main core of it. So we have this thing called AU, and it's got some docs and things here. And the main place it saves its content in is your home directory. So if we create a new like workspace called to-dos, now this CLI AU is really the like internal core CLI. There will be a more involved one. So this dumps out like JSON and stuff like YAML. So you can see each workspace has a UID, has an alias, and it's got some metadata, and then it's kind of got a commit like head, like Git. And so you can obviously do work inside that. So we can list to-dos, we can create a to-do. Let's see, it requires a title here, so we can say do the thing. And if we list them, you can see that single to-do there. We can let's create like a bunch of them. That didn't do what I was expecting, was it? Okay, I'll just do it manually. Oh, maybe it did. Well, if we list them, see the whole load of things. I should make it so that it dumps out the to-do you just created when you do that. But yeah, you can give things descriptions and all of that. Now, obviously, the user interface about what tasks are can be as complicated as you like. When you have all of this data sitting on the client, you can do crazy filtering and stuff like that. But I think what I wanted to show was more of the interesting stuff. So firstly, there's another layer up, which is this like workspace management. Now I can list workspaces. I can let's make a new one. Say, for example, I have to-dos, and for a different project, I might have Project Mercury. So a totally different project. And now when I do list, you'll see that there's one of these is the kind of current workspace. So if I list to-dos there, it's the new one I just created. It's empty. So let's point myself back at that other one, and now I can see all the other tasks. So there's this concept of like looking at different workspaces and looking at the tasks with them. And obviously you can specifically in your commands point at a different workspace in different ways using CLI parameters or environment variables, or with that like use mechanism. Works like Kubernetes, kubectl, switch between them. But yeah, back to our, so within that workspace, there's edit. I don't think I implemented edit yet. I think if you try and edit it to do, it's just going to say not implemented. but it's not very important. Neither is delete. Like create and list is the main thing I need for this technical demo. So the question is, if I have been working on this workspace, how do I tell someone else, hey, please collaborate with me? So there's two ways you do this. You can take your workspace and you'll see that there are serve, sync, and sync import. So if I have now this, obviously this top terminal here is going to be my serve one. So let's say I want to this to-dos one. That's the one I want to synchronize to another person. So we can serve this. Now it's going to expect a port. So let's just run this on port 9000. Now it's sitting here waiting for connections. Now I can tell my other person who is going to work out of this other directory here. Okay, now I want you to sync import my workspace. So takes a URL, and I may not have implemented this one. Let's see what happens. It does need, so I can tell them here's the UID of that workspace. Oops, wrong port. Cool. So it ran. If we can look at our workspace listing, we can now see we have that same to-dos workspace. You can see the size is the same, the head commit is the same, and so we now have two kind of users that are working on the same workspace here. And now they can obviously create more to-dos here, and they're operating on different copies of the document. Let's say each of them creates 2 more to-dos, does some operations. Let's do 3, maybe 1 extra on that side. And now we want to synchronize work again. So we open our server again on one of them, and the other can, instead of sync import, and we don't have to provide the UID, we're obviously using a workspace, we can just do sync, and it finishes. And now, if we look at our workspace listing, we now see that this other workspace here, this client, was able to catch up a bit. It now has that other head of the server present on its side, and so you can tell that it knows that it's kind of pulled down as much data as we need there. So I'm still working on getting it the other way around. I need the client to make sure its changes reach the server, but we can look at what that does with some interesting things. So we've got some dev commands attached here. So I can show the history of the workspace. Not very interesting, just dumps the changes and commit messages for processing somewhere else. And each one has dependencies. You can see how it jumps between them. More interesting is if we look at this dot command. Now I'm going to generate some graph output, so I can dump that into my paste buffer and go over to a graph vendor and dump it in. And here you can see what has happened. So we've got our to-dos initialize the workspace there, and we've got various actions that committed new to-dos into the repo. And then here was that branch point where the two diverged. And now we watched the two this client here, this workspace, was able to see that there was this divergence. And so what it needs to do after this, in order to start adding new content, is commit a kind of an empty change or something to join this history back together and allow auto merge to process what it means to kind of merge these things together. But yeah, so that's kind of how we can do that. So I mean, I can show you what the merge looks like. We can, in that second one, create another to-do, generate our output again, dump it in, and now you can see that there was an additional to-do added here at the bottom, this latest one, and it acts to kind of merge history together. And so if we come back and open our server again here, unsync a couple times to see what happens. Yeah. Okay, so changes aren't really going the other direction. We'll fix that. That's okay. I expect what's happening here is that the server is receiving the content, but it's not actually writing the file back to disk, which is a bit of a problem, but an easy fix. So yeah, that's kind of the demonstration. Now, the question is, like, why would this project be useful to people? And I think why I like it is this idea that we can, let's just open the diagramming tool quickly. Is this idea that we can have, like, different use cases. So the one is that one person can have their little to-dos document that's sitting on their phone or their laptop and things like that. The concern is I don't want to use a cloud server, but I don't server all the time. I want to be offline. But I want to back it up somehow. So you can easily run a kind of encrypted external system that can kind of decrypt, synchronize content between the two, and re-encrypt it. And the actor, the person who owns the document, can keep the encryption key, but and decrypt it during the session. And yeah, they get some external to back up their content. And if they don't trust that server, they can back it up to kind of multiple different external ones, or they can very easily move it. If they don't like the service they're getting from this like service provider, they can drop that and move it to another one. And they keep all the history, they keep all the content. You can back it up to both at the same time, and that history will kind of all merge together appropriately. And if you introduce another person or another device, say a web browser, they can point it, they can know where to kind of reference that document, open it, work on it, and that little state storage can live in their browser. So one person can have it on a terminal, one person can have a browser. This could be the same person accessing the same task list, synchronizing it in kind of real time. There's no reason why they can't kind of make a request out to to their browser and synchronize it between the terminal and the browser. There's a lot of different possibilities here, and so what I'm exploring really is what the format of this document is, and standardizing the kind of synchronization messages that I expected, and yeah, I'll try and build a couple of projects around that, and hopefully I'll use it for my to-do work. But yeah, thanks for listening. Catch you next time.